After 4 years, basically to the day, it was April 2016 when I made a video on my E46 M3. It is April 2020. I currently have a 2020 BMW M340i X Drive that I currently lease. So yeah, a lot has changed. We're in quarantine now. This is the third car that I've had outside of college. I started with the 2003 M3, which I very much loved, and amazingly, that video that I made just on my iPhone has 63,000 views on it, which is just insane. So, I mean, I appreciate the support. It was just something I did for fun. But I started with that, moved up to Rhode Island, realized that I needed all-wheel drive. I got a Jaguar XES all-wheel drive, which I ran for 3 years. Liked the car. A little too expensive for what it was. It was actually a bit slower than my E46 M3, which is just, you know, a fantastic car. But I recently got this in the beginning of fall of 2019. So I've had it for about, how many months is that? 6 or 7 months now. And I love it. I like it because you get the all-wheel drive. You know, I wanted to get an M car. This isn't necessarily a full-on M car. It's the M Performance version of the G23 series. And currently the top trim that you can get, they haven't released the new M3 or M4 yet. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed they don't put that disgusting new grille on it. We'll see what happens, and it might grow on me if they end up doing it. But yeah, so I wanted something with all-wheel drive. I know the new M3 is going to have that option, but fall of last year when I did get this car, it wasn't available. So I decided to go with this, and it's been fantastic. I love this drivetrain. It's what you find in the Supra, pretty much. This is like a 4-door Supra, which is pretty cool. The Z4 M40i, X3 M40i, X4 M40i. It's kind of ubiquitous in the BMW family. It has the V58 engine, which I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with, which is just a great engine. It has a lot of tuning potential, which was not something that I had with the E46 M3. That being naturally aspirated, which, I mean, it sounded glorious and everything, but the tuning potential just wasn't there. I did an Eventory intake for that and some other bits and bobs there. So, I mean, it maybe gave me an extra 20-30 horsepower. But with this, you know, it's turbocharged. Tunes are very readily available for this platform. So I currently have the JB4 tune on this, which is awesome to say the least. But even stock, this car just runs so well. But I have JB4 on this now, stock exhaust, and then a few exterior modifications. But other than that, it's a stock car just with a tune. It's great because it's a wonderful daily driver. It's much more comfortable than any of the M cars in the past, because this is, again, not a true M car. So, I mean, there's still a lot of the, you know, basic 3 Series DNA in there, but you don't really sacrifice a lot of driving feel. It still just is a really tight car. It handles really well, and with the different driving modes that I have here in the center console, I have Sport, Comfort, Eco, and then there's, you know, Sport Individual, Sport Plus, Eco Individual, Eco Plus, and just everything in between. But it helps you just change the character of the car as you're driving it. So, you know, if I have a long commute to work, which I do now, putting it in Eco or Comfort and just letting it, you know, basically drive itself. It's such a easy car to drive, and you have Apple CarPlay and everything, which is great. But right now we're in Comfort, but if I put it into Sport Plus, immediately the exhaust opens up back there, which sounds great. You get some pops and crackles. And then the transmission sharpens up a little bit. It's raining a little bit, so I'm not going to go too crazy. But it just has like this nice dual personality. it's so much faster than the M cars of the past. I mean, there's no comparison to the E46 or the E92 M3s. With the tune, this is fairly similar, if not a little bit quicker than the F80 M3. My good buddy, old coworker, has a 2019 or 2018 M3 comp, and we did a rolling race, and we were just dead on the entire time with this tune. So that's pretty impressive, you know. And having the all-wheel drive, and you know, the F80 M3 is kind of notorious for being a really tail-happy, kind of wary car, and this is just much more planted. So, I mean, I really don't have many complaints with this so far. I think that what I like what BMW is doing is in the previous generations, 340s, 335s, they were pretty much indistinguishable from the 328s, the 330s. Whereas this has a little bit more, I mean, you can get the 330 now with the M Sport, you know, package, and it comes with a lot of the body panels that you get in this. But there's just, they do a little bit more to differentiate this generation M performance models from the standard models, which I do appreciate a lot. And it goes in line with what Audi's been doing for years with, you know, they have the RS models, but then they have the S models, which do look different than, you know, the generic A models, the Q models and such. And the same thing with Mercedes, which they have just recently been doing in the last few years, where they have the 43 AMGs, the 53 AMGs. So they have different levels. So I'm glad that BMW is kind of embracing that. I know that there's some purists that aren't happy with that, but me being someone who's owned two M3s in the past, I personally think it's a nice welcome change. And for people that don't have the $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 lying around, this is a nice alternative. I mean, these start at, I think, in the mid-50s. This car is about $64,000, and I think you get a lot of the car for the price. I mean, I think that you can obviously get, you know, the new C8 Corvette, for example, is just an absolute bargain for what it is. And then, but I mean, in terms of daily drivable luxury German sedans, it's a great value. And then, Jesus, the pops are just awesome. The stock exhaust sounds great. This doesn't have a quote-unquote M performance exhaust or anything. This is just straight from the factory. That's another thing. I think that it feels a little bit more raw than the previous generation 335s, 340s, and I like that a lot. That was my biggest complaint about those. They felt a little soft. But I mean, you could go into the aftermarket, which there's so much out there to get for those cars, and you can make them your own, and you can make them more of a raw car, but from the factory they weren't at all. This seems a lot more, which really drew me to it. I was looking at Hellcat's C43 AMGs, the new Mustang as other alternatives for this car, and this one just had just the perfect balance of everything, I felt like, and while not being boring at all. It's honestly just a really great package, and I'm excited to see what BMW is going to be doing with this new 3 Series. I think it's such a big step up from the F30 generation. That was kind of a letdown for me. I'm a huge BMW fanboy, this being my 4th that I've owned. So I was a little disappointed by the previous generation. I felt like it just was a little lackluster. This is definitely a welcome return to course for them. Let's see what else I can talk about. Well, I mean, I know as an M car or M performance car, you know, the driving dynamics are top priority, but even outside of that, it's very comfortable car. The materials are great. I love what BMW's been doing with their current interiors. The design is very minimalist, but very classy and striking at the same time. I think it's much better built than what I was seeing in the current generation C-Class. Even though it's a great interior, I think this is just better built, more solid, and the design is really great. I think that they integrated the touchscreen and the infotainment screen a lot better than in Mercedes and Audi products. And you have a full digital instrument cluster. People have been giving us a lot of flack for the design of the, the opposite going tachometer and everything. I think it's a really cool design. I'm very much a fan of it. And I also really enjoy the ambient lighting, being able to choose the different colors and everything. It's just cool. It just adds a little bit more of customization. And the sound system's great. Apple CarPlay obviously is fantastic, especially for someone who commutes a lot. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm at a little bit of red light. I'm gonna do a launch control. So let's see, it is rainy. Oh my gosh. I don't even want to tell you how fast that was. But I'm breaking traction in all four wheels, which is just really fun. And then with this tune, it just wakes that engine up a little bit more. I mean, BMW is very notorious for underrating their cars from the factory. This is rated at 382 horsepower, and I think dyno numbers had it at making that or in the mid 300s to the wheels. So it's definitely an over 400 horsepower car from the factory. But with this tune, it's probably pushing 500, if not more. I'm running map 4 at this point on this tune. So yeah, it's healthy. It's healthy. And then with this traction control, you can have different settings on it. So I don't have it fully off right now, but I can have the back end kick out on me. So, I mean, it's just a really fun car. People think, oh, all-wheel drive kind of makes cars just feel a little bit less engaging, because with rear-wheel drive, you're able to really point the car exactly where you want it to go. But with this and most modern all-wheel drive systems, they're very much variable. Just as I showed you with that traction control, I'm able to kick the tail out without issue, but I also have the security of all-wheel drive. So I'm not, breaking traction whenever I want to get on the gas or anything. So it's just that sense of being able to make the car behave the way you want it to at any point is something that really draws me to what BMW is currently producing. Because with the M3 that I had, the E46, it felt like it was very much just always on all the time. Which is great and all, but every once in a while you just want to relax, and if it's your daily driver, you don't want to be driving it at 10/10ths all the time. Now with this car, it's just it has multiple personalities, which you don't want in your girlfriend, but in your car, it's pretty welcome. I have to say it's a great thing, and I feel like I can just enjoy it at any time. If I'm stressed, I just put it in eco or comfort, just blast some music and enjoy myself. Don't really think about it. If I'm looking to have some fun when I'm quarantined inside all day and I just want to go for a drive, I can put it in Sport Plus and just, as you saw, drift around corners and such. But one other thing that I do like is this transmission. It's not a dual clutch, but it's the the 8-speed that's ubiquitous in the market. So I'm in automatic mode, but if I just floor it, oh jeez, so that was almost 90 miles an hour. So just immensely more powerful than any car I've owned before. But yeah, it just the transmission responds so quickly, and then when you use the paddle shifters, it's just immediate and quick. And I think it's just a great all-around car. And I'm sure the 330 is great too, but this just has that extra bit of performance that you're looking for in a BMW, and really not a lot of complaints. Great on gas because it's turbocharged. But yeah, I mean, that's just, I wanted to show you a quick little one take on my car, given that it was basically 4 years to this day that I made my video on my M3, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking at this car and thinking, is it really something that is a viable option for people that look for the performance that the M division gives? And again, me as a previous M owner, I would say that this is very much something that is a great option for those people that want something a little less expensive, a little bit more fuel efficient, although we don't know the you know, the EPA numbers on the new M3 because it hasn't been released yet. But I assume that this is probably more fuel efficient. The all-wheel drive and the suspension in general is more tuned for more just everyday drivability rather than being able to melt your face on a racetrack or anything like that. So I just think for an everyday car, this is a great option, and it's a lot of money, or a lot of car for the money rather. And for any of those that are in this price point, I would definitely recommend checking this out, especially if you're into being able to tune the car, and just having the aftermarket support that the BMW community has is pretty fantastic. So you have a lot of opportunity to make this car your own, which is great. So yeah, I recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the next few years I have with it, and I hope to be posting more videos about it. I've already done a few, but yeah, just stay tuned, stay safe during this time. I know this is a weird time for us all, but we're all in this together. And I'm not quoting High School Musical, but we're gonna get through this, and just thanks for watching. Appreciate it.